BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. Rescue workers have been combing through the rubble of a popular restaurant destroyed by a Russian missile attack on the Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk. At least 4 people were killed in the strike during dinner hours. Officials say the final number of victims is still being determined. Our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, is in Kyiv.
The images, I think, that have come out of the place tell their own story. It was a very popular restaurant. It was right in the center of the town. It was crowded with people, local people, soldiers. It's also popular with aid workers, paramedics, even journalists. And as of getting towards midnight local time, they were saying that 4 were dead and more than 40 injured, including a small baby. Let's hope that doesn't rise. I fear that it might, judging by the scale of the damage.
The NATO Secretary-General has said the alliance is ready to defend itself against threats from both Moscow and Minsk. Jens Stoltenberg stressed it was too early to know the consequences of the arrival in Belarus of the head of the Wagner paramilitary group, along with probably some of his forces. Officials in Lithuania, which borders Belarus, have said the mercenaries could take part in sabotage and infiltration operations. The head of Sudan's army, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has announced a unilateral ceasefire on the first day of the Muslim Eid holiday. His televised speech came after a day of intense fighting against the paramilitary RSF, despite their leader making his own ceasefire declaration. Will Leonardo reports.
The beginning of the Eid al-Adha holiday was supposed to mark some respite for Sudan's beleaguered civilians caught in the incessant fight for power between the country's 2 armed factions. But little came on Tuesday, with intense clashes raging around the capital Khartoum's bases and in Darfur in the west. There will be hope that this latest announcement from General al-Burhan will mean a lull, at least for the next few days. But a prolonged pause remains unlikely, with the army on the back foot against the rapid support forces. General al-Burhan also used his speech to call on young Sudanese to enlist to face what he called existential threats against the country.
Legislators in Bosnia's autonomous Serb Republic have voted to suspend rulings by the Bosnian Constitutional Court, a move that's in direct violation of the peace agreement that established the nation. Here's our Balkans correspondent, Guy Delorney.
The Constitutional Court is one of Bosnia's key institutions. As well as safeguarding the constitution, it may also overrule any other court in the country and, in effect, legislation passed by regional governments. That's made it a target for Bosnia's senior ethnic Serb politician Milorad Dodik. He'd attempted to stymie the court by refusing to nominate ethnic Serb judges. When that didn't work, he introduced legislation suspending the region's recognition of court decisions.
World News from the BBC. Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio has won a second term following a tense election marred by violence. The 59-year-old former soldier said he was humbled and thankful. His supporters have been celebrating. They credit Maada Bio with enacting some of the most progressive policies in the region, like this to light a supporter in the capital Freetown.
Maada Bio has provided for us the free quality education. He has constructed so many bridges for us, and he is fighting the corruption in the country. So because of that, I like him. That is the reason why I voted for him. So I'm happy today. He has won the election. So I'm so happy. I'm very much excited. I really don't know what to say.
The president's main rival, Samora Kamara, has categorically rejected the election result, describing it as an attack on democracy. Brazilian federal prosecutors have filed a lawsuit to strip the conservative Jovem Pan media outlet of its radio licenses for allegedly spreading disinformation and inciting violence during last year's presidential election. Prosecutors accuse the outlet of making baseless claims that Brazil's electronic voting system was vulnerable to fraud and encouraging attacks against democratic institutions. The moves raise concerns about the freedom of speech. 4 more people have been arrested for their alleged involvement in the deaths of 53 migrants found abandoned inside a scorching truck in the U.S. city of San Antonio last year. The men, all Mexican nationals, could face life imprisonment. The migrants from Mexico and Central America died of heat stroke and dehydration after being shut inside with no water. 7 people have been arrested after clashing with French riot police in the Parisian suburb of Nanterre. They'd taken to the streets after a 17-year-old boy was shot dead, apparently at point-blank range, for refusing to stop when ordered to by traffic police. A video circulating on social media shows an officer aiming his weapon at the driver through the window and then firing when the driver takes off. From London, that's the latest BBC World News.